Back with part 4 of this week's reading of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life Version, TLV. And we're about ready to read chapter 32. Before we do that, I just want to also recap that, God's will for us is that we all repent and turn to Him. And this is what He was basically saying through Isaiah to His people, that He will fight and protect Israel. They just need to turn to Him and not to man. Okay, chapter 32, reign in righteousness. Behold, a king will reign in righteousness, and princes will rule in justice. Each will be like a refuge from the wind and a shelter from the storm, like streams of water in a dry place, like the shade of a massive rock in a weary land. Then the eyes of those who see will not be closed, and the ears of those who hear will pay attention. The heart of the hasty will understand knowledge, and the tongue of stammerers will speak fluently, clearly. No longer will a fool be called noble, or a scoundrel called to be a gentleman. For the fool speaks foolishness, and his heart works wickedness to practice ungodliness, and speak error about Adonai. To deprive the hungry of food and withhold drink from the thirsty, the scoundrel's methods are evil, and he makes up wicked schemes to destroy the poor with lies, even when the plea of the needy is just. But the noble devises noble plans, and for noble causes he stands. Rise up, you women at ease, and hear my voice, you complacent daughters, give ear to my words. Within a year and a few days you will shudder, complacent ones, for the grape harvest will fail, and the gathering will not come. Tremble, you women at ease. Shudder, you complacent ones. Strip and make yourselves bare, and put sackcloth on your waist. Beat your breasts, lamenting for pleasant fields, for fruitful vine, for the land of my people, where thorns and briars come up, for all the joyful houses of the jubilant city. I just want to pause for a second here. The beginning of this reign in righteousness, we are speaking of Yeshua, will reign in righteousness as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And as we're moving also along in this chapter, we can see, complacency is not a good thing to be. We need to speak out for the truth. We need to speak up for the Word of God, and stand for what is right. And the Holy Spirit will give us the go-ahead when that time is appropriate. We'll put those words into our mouths when it is appropriate. For the palace will be abandoned, the bustling city will be deserted, the citadel and the watchtower will become a wasteland forever, a delight of wild donkeys, a pasture for flocks, until the Ruach is poured out on us from on high, and the desert becomes a garden, and a garden seems like a forest. Then justice will dwell in the wilderness, and righteousness abide in the garden. The result of righteousness will be shalom, and the effect of righteousness will be quietness and confidence forever. So the peace is promised to those that are righteous. My people will live in a peaceful place, in secure dwellings, quiet resting places. Then hail will flatten the forest, and the city will be utterly laid low. Blessed are you, sowing by all waters, letting the feet of the ox and the donkey range free. And that's the end of chapter 32. And there's a footnote, Acts 2, verse 33. Therefore, being exalted to the right hand of God and receiving from the Father the promise of the Ruach HaKodesh, he poured out this, what you now see and hear. And that's speaking of Yeshua. And Romans 5:5 is the other Brit Kadashah verse that is in the footnotes, and it reads, and hope does not disappoint because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Ruach HaKodesh who was given to us. Chapter 33, Ambassadors of Peace weep bitterly. Oi, you destroyer, never destroyed, you traitor, never betrayed. When you have stopped destroying, you will be destroyed, and when you finish betraying, they will betray you. Adonai, be gracious to us, we long for you. Be our strength every morning, our salvation in time of trouble. From the noise of tumult, people will flee. When you lift yourself up, the nations will be scattered. Your spoil is gathered, as the caterpillar gathers. Like a swarm of locusts, they are rushing over it. Adonai is exalted, for he dwells on high. He has filled Zion with justice and righteousness. It will be your time of faithfulness, a wealth of salvation, wisdom, and knowledge. The fear of Adonai is his treasure. Behold, heroes cry outside, ambassadors of peace weep bitterly. Highways are desolate, travel has ceased. Covenant is broken, cities are despised. There is no regard for humanity. The land mourns and languishes. Lebanon is shamed and withers. Sharon is like a wilderness. Bashan and Carmel are shaken bare. Our eternal judge arises. Now I will arise, says Adonai. Now I will be exalted. Now I will lift myself up. You conceive chaff. You will give birth to stubble. My breath is a fire that will consume you. Then people will be burned as lime, like thorns cut down, burned in the fire. Hear, you who are afar off, what I have done, and you who are near, acknowledge my might. Sinners in Zion are afraid. Trembling has seized the godless. Who among us can live with the consuming fire? Who among us can live with everlasting burnings? One who walks righteously and speaks uprightly, who refuses unjust gain by extortion, who shakes his hands free of bribes, who stops his ears from hearing of bloodshed, and shuts his eyes from looking on evil. He will dwell on the heights. His refuge will be an impregnable cliff. His bread will be provided, his water assured. Your eyes will see the king in his beauty. They will gaze at a far distant land. Your heart will meditate on terror. Where is the counter? Where is the weigher? Where is the counter of towers? You will no longer see the fierce people, the people of speech, too obscure to comprehend. With a stammering tongue, no one understands. Look upon Zion, city of our festivals. Your eyes will see Jerusalem as a quiet home, a tent that will never be folded, its stakes never pulled up, its cords never broken. For there the majestic one, Adonai, will be for us, a place of rivers and wide canals, on which no boat with oars will go, nor any mighty ship will travel by. For Adonai is our judge, Adonai is our lawgiver, Adonai is our king. He will save us. Your cords hang slack, not holding the mast in place firmly, nor spreading out the sail. Then abundant spoil will be divided. Even the lame will carry off plunder. No inhabitant will say, I am sick. The people dwelling there will be forgiven their iniquity. Chapter 34, End Time Vision. Now, Isaiah seemed to have a lot of that before we start this. He really had a wide variety of prophesying of different time frames, of course, during his own time and what was going to happen to the southern kingdom of Judah. But he also, like I said, prophesied the first coming of Messiah, the second coming of Messiah, and what the end time vision was going to look like, too, he saw. And here we go with chapter 34, End Time Vision. Draw near, O nation, to hear, and listen, O peoples. Let the earth hear and all it contains, the world and all its offspring. For Adonai is enraged at all the nations and furious at all their armies. He will utterly destroy them. He will give them over to slaughter. So their slain will be thrown out, and the stench of their corpses will rise, and the hills will be drenched with their blood. Then all the hosts of heaven will dissolve, and the skies will be rolled up like a scroll. So all their array will wither away, like a leaf drooping from a vine, like a fig shriveling from a fig tree. Seek the scroll and read, for my word has drunk its fill in the heavens. See, it will come down upon Edom, upon the people I have devoted to judgment. The sword of Adonai is filled with blood, gorged with fat, the blood of lambs and goats, the fat of kidneys of rams. For Adonai has a sacrifice in Basra, a great slaughter in the land of Edom. Wild oxen will go down with them, but bull calves with mighty steers. So their land will be soaked with blood and their dust greasy with fat. For Adonai has a day of vengeance, a year of recompense for the hostility against Zion. Its streams will be turned into pitch, its dust into brimstone, and its land will become burning tar. It will not be quenched night or day. Its smoke will go up forever from generation to generation. It will lay waste forever and ever. None will pass through it. The pelican and porcupine will have it. Owl and raven will dwell in it. He will stretch a line of chaos over it and stones of desolation. As for its nobles, there are none there to call it a kingdom, and all its princes will come to nothing. Thorns will come up in its palaces, nettles and thistles in its fortresses. It will be a haunt of jackals, an abode for ostriches. Wild cats will meet with wolves. The goat demon will cry to its kind. Yes, the night monster will settle there and find itself a resting place. A tree snake will nest and lay eggs there, hatch and gather them under its shadow. Surely hawks are gathered there, each one with her meat. Seek from the scroll of Adonai and read. Not one of them will be missing, none will lack its meat, for its mouth commanded it, and his ruach gathered them. He cast the lots for them, and his hand divided it out to them with the line. They will possess it forever and dwell in it from generation to generation. And that's the end of chapter 34. And if you hear in the background, it is thundering. It is. We're ready to get a storm here. Chapter 35, Highway in the Wilderness. The wilderness and dry land will be glad. The desert will rejoice and blossom like a lily. It will blossom profusely, will rejoice with joy and singing, and will be given the glory of Lebanon, the splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of Adonai, the splendor of our God. Strengthen the limp hands, make firm the wobbly knees. Say to those with anxious heart, be strong, have no fear. Behold your God, vengeance is coming. God's recompense, it is coming. Then he will save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame will leap like a deer and the tongue of the mute will sing. For water will burst forth in the desert and streams in the wilderness. The parched land will become a pool, the thirsty ground springs of water in the haunt of jackals where they rest. Grass will become reeds and rushes. Highway will be there, a roadway. It will be called the way of holiness. The uncleanness will not travel on it. It is for the one who walks the way. Fools will not go astray. No lion will be there. No ravenous beast will go up on it. They will not be found there, but the redeemed will walk there. The ransomed of Adonai will return and come to Zion with singing and everlasting joy upon their heads. They will obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. And that's the end of chapter 35. And there's some cross references here to the Brit Kadashah, where Yeshua helped, actually healed the blind man in John chapter 9, verses 6 to 7. Having said these things, he spat on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and spread the mud on the blind man's eye. He told him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is translated sent. So he went away, washed, and came back seeing. And then we have Acts chapter 26, verse 18, to open their eyes so they may turn from the darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive release from sins as well as a place among those who are made holy through trusting in me. In Matthew 9, it looks like 33 to 36 is also in a footnote. After the demon was driven out, the mute man started speaking. The crowds were astounded, saying, never has anything like this been seen in Israel. But the Pharisees were saying, by the prince of demons, he drives out demons. Now Yeshua was going around all the towns and villages, seeking in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news as of the kingdom and healing every kind of disease and sickness. And it's interesting that the Pharisees should even say that contradicting statement, because demons can't cast out demons. So they were really misleading people with that statement because it was untrue. It was almost like a projection. Okay, chapter 36. And a cherub dares Jerusalem. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that King Sennacherib of Assyria came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. The king of Assyria sent the Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem to King Hezekiah with a massive army. The Rabshakeh stood by the aqueduct of the upper pool in the highway of the washers' field. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna, the scribe, and Joah, son of Asaph, the recorder, came out to him. So the Rabshakeh said to him, Say now to Hezekiah, Thus says the great king, the king of Assyria, what is this confidence you've relied on? I say your strategy and strength for war are only words of the lip. Who do you rely on now, so that you have rebelled against me? Behold, you rely on this splintered reed as a staff, Egypt. If a man leans on it, it will go into the palm of his hand and pierce it. Thus Pharaoh, king of Egypt, is to all who trust in him. But if you say to me, We trust in Adonai our God, is it not he whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed, and then said to Judah and to Jerusalem, You must worship before this altar? So now make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria. I'll give you 2,000 horses if you could put riders of your own on them. So how can you repulse a single lieutenant, the least of my master's servants? Yes, you're relying on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen. Moreover, have I now come up against this land to destroy it without Adonai's approval? Adonai said to me, Go up against this land and destroy it. Then Eliakim and Shebna and Joah said to Rabshakeh, Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it. Don't speak to us in the language of the Jews when the people on the wall are listening. But Rabshakeh said, Has my master sent me only to your master and to you to speak these words? Hasn't he sent me to the men who sit on the wall, who will eat their own waste and drink their own urine with you? Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the language of the Jews and said, Hear the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus says the king, Don't let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you, nor let Hezekiah persuade you to trust in Adonai by saying, Adonai will surely deliver us. This city will not be given into the hand of this city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Don't listen to Hezekiah, for thus says the king of Assyria, Make peace with me and come out to me. Then everyone will eat from his own vine and fig, and everyone will drink water from his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware that Hezekiah does not mislead you, saying, Adonai will deliver us. Has any one of the gods of the nations delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? Indeed, when they did deliver Samaria from my hand, indeed, when did they deliver Samaria from my hand? And that is talking about the northern kingdom, who had been taken away already. Who among all the gods of these lands have delivered their country out of my hand? So will Adonai deliver Jerusalem from my hand? But they were silent and did not answer him a word, for the king's commandment was, Do not answer him. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, and Shebna, the scribe, and Joah, son of Asaph, the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn and told them the words of Rabshakeh. Chapter 37. Hezekiah tears his clothes. When King Hezekiah heard it, he tore his clothes, covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of Adonai. Then he sent Eliakim, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna the scribe, and the senior Kohanim, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, son of Amos. Then they said to him, Thus says Hezekiah, This day is a day of distress, rebuke, and contempt, for children have come to the point of birth, and there is no strength for giving birth. Perhaps Adonai your God will hear the words of Rabshakeh, whom his master the king of Assyria has sent to mock the living God, and will rebuke the words which Adonai your God has heard. So offer prayer for the remnant that is left. When the officials of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, Thus you will say to your master, Thus says Adonai, do not be afraid of the words you have heard, with which the boys of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Behold, I am putting a spirit in him so that he will hear of rumor and will return to his own country. Then I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. Then the Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah, for he had heard he had withdrawn from Lachish. Now he had heard them say concerning Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, saying, He has come out to fight against you. When he heard it, he sent messengers to Hezekiah, saying, Thus you will say to King Hezekiah of Judah, saying, Do not let your God in whom you trust deceive you, saying, Jerusalem will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, utterly destroying them. So will you be delivered? Have the God of your nations have the God the have the gods of the nations delivered those my father destroyed? Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, or the children of Eden who were in the Telasar? Where is the king of Hamath, or the king of Arpad, or the king of the city of Sepharvim, or Hena, or Erbia? Then Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. Then Hezekiah went up to the house of Adonai and spread it before Adonai. Hezekiah prayed to Adonai, saying, Adonai Sabaoth, God of Israel, who is enthroned upon the cherubim, you alone are God of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, Adonai, and hear. Open your eyes, Adonai, and see. Listen to all the words of Sennacherib, who was sent to mock the living God. It is true, Adonai, the kings of Assyria have devastated all the countries and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire. For they were not gods, but the work of human hands, wood and stone, so they have destroyed them. Now, Adonai, our God, save us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone are Adonai. Powerful prayer, huh? And we need to stand in the gap as well for this salvation and for the Lord to save our nation and nations, the world, against tyranny and against the evil that it has encroached upon the world and this nation that we're in. Answered prayer and Sennacherib demise. Then Isaiah son of Amos sent word to Hezekiah, saying, Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, because you prayed to me about King Sennacherib of Assyria, this is the word that Adonai has spoken about him. The virgin daughter of Zion will despise you and mock you. The daughter of Jerusalem will shake her head at you. Whom did you taunt and blaspheme? Against whom did you raise your voice and haughtily lift up your eyes? Against the Holy One of Israel? Through your servants you have blasphemed my Lord and said, With my many chariots I have climbed to the heights of the mountains, to the remotest parts of Lebanon. I cut down its tall cedars and choice cypress trees. I have gone to its farthest peak, its thickest forest. I dug and drank water, and with the sole of my feet I dried up all the streams of Egypt. Have you not heard? I did it long ago. From ancient times I planned it. Now I have brought it to pass that you should turn fortified cities into heaps of rubble. Their inhabitants are weak-handed, shattered, and ashamed. They are like the grass of the field, and green herb like grass on roofs, scorched before it is grown up. But I know you're sitting down, you're going out, and you're coming in, and you're raging against me. Because you're raging against me, and your arrogance reached my ears, I will put my hook in your nose and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the way you came. And I'm going to pause it here for this. It is already at 24 minutes. I didn't realize we were this far. I will come back with the next part.